Hi, everyone. This presentation gives an overview of the critical reading strategy asking questions. This past week, we had our first dip into rhetoric, and our readings this week continue to unpack the definition of rhetoric, but I included it in this slide. In terms of reading comprehension and writing techniques, understanding rhetoric involves moving beyond basic level comprehension to consider not just what's being stated, but how it's being presented. Rhetorically understanding a text means that a reader is able to focus on what the author is saying, how information is arranged, and the context of the information. So we search, we search for rhetoric to discover what a speaker is trying to accomplish with their work. I added an infographic in to help unpack the rhetorical triangle. These are the building blocks of persuasive speaking. We have logos up here, and then there's pathos and ethos. Logos is an appeal to logic. If you see here, consistent in message, academically focused, thesis-based, research, factual. You're appealing to the reasoning capabilities of the person you're communicating with. So you're appealing to logic when you use logos. With pathos, meaning suffering, our appeal to pathos is based in how what we're doing makes the reader or listener feel. So, for example, ASPCA commercials, those really sad commercials with the animals and the Sarah McLachlan music playing, that's an appeal to pathos. It is appealing to the listener or reader's heartstrings. And then there's ethos or character, and it is speaking to the credibility of the writer. So, or it's speaking to us and speaks to the credibility of the writer. For example, if you hear a message, 9 in 10 doctors recommend insert name of pharmaceutical drug here. We know that we think that there is the potential that many doctors support a medication because it's a good thing. But if we're talking about information coming from a world renowned ecologist, we look at that person's name and we're like, okay, they've accomplished all these things. They are informed on these things, so we can trust what they're saying. So ethos appeals to a person's character. When we are going to examine a text, we need to look at the author's purpose or why they're writing, the audience or whom they're writing to, the style or how they're writing, the expectations in regards to both the author and audience, expectation of outcome, content, form, potential biases, because everyone has preconceived notions and biases that until we understand that they're there, we aren't even aware that we have. And then there's the medium of composition, could be digital, print, oral. All of these elements help contribute to the overall purpose of the text that we're looking at. So when we are examining something for rhetoric, we look at all these different areas and try to unpack the deeper meaning of what we're looking at so we can fully understand it. Rhetoric is its own unique field of study with scholarship covering genre analysis, workplace rhetoric, medical rhetoric, religious rhetoric, rhetoric of pop culture, rhetoric of games, political rhetoric, just to name a few popular areas of study. It's everywhere. Rhetoric is everywhere. We see it on the television, we see it on social media, and it's the art of persuasion, according to Aristotle. It is the faculty of observing in any given case the available means of persuasion. There are a couple of different types of arguments. A Rogerian argument or Rogerian rhetoric is a form of argumentative reasoning that aims to establish a middle ground between parties with opposing viewpoints or goals. You might use this in your everyday life regularly. If you want pizza for dinner and your significant other wants a chicken sandwich or something like that, you might decide to compromise by going to a restaurant that allows you to order both. With a Toolman model, um, these arguments break down into 6 component parts. We have a claim, grounds, warrant, qualifier, rebuttal, and backing. And here's an infographic. If you want to go back and look at these slides later, that is an option. I'm going to post them this week. But in Toolman's method, every argument begins with 3 fundamental parts: the claim, the grounds, and the warrant. And then there's listening rhetoric. Rhetorical listening is a stance of openness in which understanding means more than simply listening for a speaker or writer's intent or for our own self-interested intent. We listen to the discourse not for intent, but with intent. Agreement isn't necessarily the goal with rhetorical listening. We often disagree with each other. However, rhetorical listening means that we recognize others' points of view as different and we work toward understanding, not necessarily agreeing. You might use this type of rhetoric with your significant other when things aren't adding up, or maybe your parents use this rhetoric with you when you've done something wrong and they're trying to be understanding. So we are going to look at another method of critical reading. We have asking questions as you read through your piece. Whatever text you're reading through, you can ask questions and actively engage with that text as you read it. Asking questions is a super important way to interact with a text, and we can ask questions about a reading before we read. We can ask while we're reading, and then we can ask more after we read, and that can lead us to better understanding the text that we're reading. So be a philosopher, ask questions. Before reading, when you're previewing a text, you can use questions to help you connect to prior knowledge or pique your curiosity about a text. Think about the ideas you're already familiar with. What doesn't seem familiar that you might want to know more about? What do you already know about the genre, whether it's a newspaper article or a journal article or a chapter in a book or a blog posting? And what expectations do you have about it? And why do you have those expectations? A bit of metacognitive thinking. While reading, you can use questions to check your understanding. What did that paragraph just say? What did it mean? What have I found difficult about this section? Why is it difficult? What am I reading that's pointing me towards new information or unfamiliar ideas? What keywords are repeated or stand out? What passages are standing out to me as important, interesting, or confusing? And then after reading, you can consider what you still would like to know or things that you might need to review. So, what am I not understanding that I might want to come back to? I'll have to go back and fix that later. Can I identify the thesis or main point of what I've just said? What's the most difficult section, if there's a difficult section? And how would I summarize the text if I just had one word to sum it up, or maybe one sentence? What could be said about it? So these are some different ways of asking questions to help you connect with your text and better understand it. I hope they're helpful, and I hope that you can use this method to better understand what you're reading this week. And remember, there's transfer here. So when you practice this in this class, this is a skill that you can also take with you to other classes. And even outside of the classroom, if you are at work reading something important, or in the future you are reading the newspaper or looking through social media, you can check your understanding and you can follow up on things you don't understand after you read something. But that's all for this one. I hope you guys are having an excellent week, and I will talk to you all soon.